Hello everyone, I am Himanshi from DNA Education, and today we will be discussing the next topic of life processes, that is respiration. So let us begin. First of all, what is respiration? In the previous session we have discussed about photosynthesis, in which carbon dioxide and water combine to make glucose. Respiration is the reverse process of photosynthesis. In respiration, glucose breaks down into carbon dioxide and water. Now, basically we have two types of respiration processes, aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. As the name suggests, aerobic respiration is the one which occurs in the presence of oxygen, whereas anaerobic respiration occurs in the absence of oxygen. Now let us study in detail how this happens. This is glucose, which is a 6-carbon molecule, C6H12O6. It is a 6-carbon molecule, and inside our cytoplasm, this glucose is present. When the glucose is absorbed in the bloodstream, it reaches the cells. The cells take up the glucose, and there is no oxygen there in the cytoplasm. So glucose breaks down in cytoplasm into pyruvate, which is a 3-carbon molecule, and in this process some energy is released. This process takes place in all cells of our body, and it takes place in the absence of oxygen. So this part of respiration is always anaerobic in nature. Now this pyruvate, which is formed in the cytoplasm, has 3 further parts. First, if there is no oxygen altogether, as in the case of yeast cells, then the pyruvate breaks down into ethanol, which is alcohol, plus carbon dioxide, and a small amount of energy is released. This we observe in our daily life because yeast is used in raising doughs and batters. We add yeast so that it can respire anaerobically and produce this carbon dioxide gas. This gas increases the volume of the dough or the batter, and ethanol is also released in this process. Another pathway is in the lack of oxygen, when there is deficiency of oxygen in an organism. For example, in our bodies during heavy exercises or gymming or running, what happens is that our muscles are in continuous activity. Because of this, our respiration cannot fulfill the oxygen demand of our muscles. At that time, the condition inside the muscle cells is temporarily anaerobic. In this case, the pyruvate is converted into lactic acid with the release of little amount of energy. Now this lactic acid, which is produced in our muscles, produces cramps in the muscles, because of which we feel pain during exercising or during running. Now we can do several measures to relieve the pain from lactic acid formation in our muscles, like massaging the body part or using hot water bottle, hot water massage. These always reduces the pain due to lactic acid. However, after the stoppage of exercise, when normal breathing is restored, sufficient oxygen is supplied to the muscle cells, the lactic acid is broken down into carbon dioxide and water to complete the process of respiration. Another pathway for pyruvate that is formed in the cytoplasm is in the presence of oxygen. This is the pure case of aerobic respiration. When there is sufficient oxygen, then pyruvate goes into the mitochondria of the cell, where it breaks down into carbon dioxide and water with the release of large amount of energy. The carbon dioxide produced in mitochondria is expelled out through our body by our respiratory system during exhalation. So now let us discuss about our respiratory system in detail. This diagram depicts the respiratory system in human beings. The respiration consists of 2 parts, inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation is the taking in of the air rich in oxygen from the atmosphere, and exhalation is the removal of carbon dioxide from the body by throwing air out of the body. The respiratory system in humans begins with the nostrils. We have a pair of nostrils which are the openings outside the body and help in the inhalation of the air. The nostrils lead to a nasal passage. The nasal passage is lined with fine hair and mucus. This hair traps the dust, dirt and germs that may enter along with the air, and the mucus lining, it moistens the air that we breathe, and it also brings the temperature of the air to normal. For example, sometimes the air can be too cold or too hot. The mucus in our nasal passage helps to regulate the temperature of the air so that it becomes suitable to the body. The air from the nasal passage enters into the pharynx and then into the larynx. Larynx is the voice box of humans. It consists of a pair of vocal cords. When air passes through the larynx, there are vocal cords. The air passes through the vocal cords and the cords vibrate. The vibration of this vocal cords produces sound in humans. Next, the air leads into the trachea. Trachea or windpipe. The windpipe simply conducts the air into the lungs. Humans have a pair of lungs. The trachea branches into the right and the left bronchi. These bronchi enter into their respective lungs. Now, as you can see that this is the left lung and this is the right lung. In the language of biology, the left and right are reversed. We say this is the left side and this is the right side. You can see that the left side of the lung has a notch. This notch is called cardiac notch, and it is present in the left lung because of the presence of heart at this place. The heart occupies the space towards the left side because the heart is tilted towards the left side, and it appears as a notch in the left lung. Each lung is surrounded by a membrane. This membrane is called the pleural membrane. The pleural membrane protects the lung from any shock or injury. It also is enclosed by a fluid which again acts as a shock absorber. The bronchi, when enters into the lungs, branches and rebranches, and again it branches repeatedly into finer and finer tubes. These fine tubes are called bronchioles. The bronchioles, they fill the entire space inside the lungs. Each bronchiole ends into a sac-like, balloon-like structure called alveoli. This is very important. Alveoli is having a very thin membrane, and this thin membrane of alveoli is surrounded by blood vessels. So when air enters through trachea, bronchi, bronchioles and finally into the alveoli, then the air that we inhaled contains oxygen from the atmosphere, and the blood that is flowing in our body, it is rich in carbon dioxide. So when this is the alveolar surface, and suppose this is our blood vessel. Now oxygen is present in the alveoli and carbon dioxide is flowing in our blood. There is oxygen and it is carbon dioxide. As we have already studied about the process of diffusion in smaller classes, where the substance of higher concentration moves towards the region of its lower concentration. So oxygen, which is in higher concentration in alveoli, moves into the blood vessel. Similarly, carbon dioxide, which is in higher concentration in blood, moves into the alveoli. So when oxygen is now dissolved in blood and carbon dioxide is now into the alveoli, and the process reverses. From alveoli, carbon dioxide travels the bronchioles, then through bronchi, then through trachea, and through the nostrils it is exhaled out, and the oxygen rich blood is now supplied to the tissues for further processes. So this is the complete process of respiration in human beings. Now there are also organisms who live in water. So how do the organisms that live in water survive? This oxygen as well as carbon dioxide can be soluble in water. In all the water bodies, some amount of oxygen is dissolved. However, the oxygen present in atmosphere is quite large as compared to the one that is dissolved in water. Hence, the breathing rate in aquatic animals is faster so that they can take up more and more oxygen from the water. In case of fishes, they have their respiratory organs called gills. In gills, again they are having very thin membranes, each of which are supplied with blood vessels. So whenever fish consumes water and passes it through the gills, the oxygen dissolved in the water is absorbed by the blood vessels of the gills, and in this way the oxygen is circulated in the body of the fish. So this is the process of respiration in different organisms that we have seen. That's all for today's session. For more details, you can log into www.dnaeducation.com. Thank you.